Hey everybody, we are on the Shap podcast with Dexter, future genetic engineer.
Hopefully, I'm a I'm a biomedical science major.
Yeah.
I'm in my third semester, which I
Yeah.
guess isn't all that much, come to think of it.
Yeah.
But I have taken a bunch of classes, so Owen's gonna ask me some questions. I'm gonna answer
Yeah.
them to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Dexter and I have been friends for about, I'd say, a year.
Yeah.
We met each other at the gym.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
the school gym.
it's really interesting because Dexter is a big passion for genetic engineering.
Mhm.
So here are some questions that I have for you. All right. Let me see. All right. So I'm going to ask you about stem cells. Can you tell us what stem cells are?
Well, there are many different types of stem cells actually. There are there are like bone stem cells.
Mhm.
I think osteocytes. I think.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
That's okay. It's
Yeah,
no big deal.
I don't remember the exact name. That's the bone marrow kind of. That's one of the most malleable.
Yeah.
But the only kind that's 100% malleable is fetal stem cells. You have blood stem cells.
Mhm.
You you have stem cells throughout a great deal of your body, but
Mhm.
almost all of them are at least somewhat specialized, except for
Mhm.
fetal stem cells. But the problem with stem cells is the reason they're controversial is because they're derived from a fetus, which would commodify the value of human tissue. It would commodify human tissue, which even though theoretically it could save lives, that's
Mhm.
not something that
Yeah.
people find acceptable because organ transplants, for instance,
Mhm.
the
So,
transplant.
yeah.
The transfer of kidney tissue would be extremely valuable. It would save countless lives.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
at the bottom line, humans can't commodify human
Mhm.
tissue, so
Yeah.
it's kind of at a standstill for now.
Okay. Can you talk about genome evolution?
Genome evolution. So the genome is the bulk of your DNA, which it is the DNA that's in the nucleus of each of your cells, except for
Mhm.
your gametes and your
Yeah.
red blood cells,
Yeah.
all of your active cells, but that evolves through random mutations, but mostly for mitochondrial sexual organisms, but
Yeah.
most of the variations in sexually reproducing organisms occurs during mitosis, which is where
Yeah.
the DNA gets shuffled between your parents. And
Yeah.
it allows certain mutations that are dominant to take hold.
Kind of like mixed around.
Yeah, they can mix around, and you can come up with certain new options because if you take a parent who has A blood type A and a parent who has blood type B, you can theoretically get blood type AB, which
Yeah.
is an all new blood type that's right,
Yeah.
which is arised from different parents.
Mhm.
No one parent can give that to their kid. It takes both parents to give that to the kid.
So I have a question. What does cancer have, like, how does genes and cancer affect each other, and how does that affect the offspring? And
Well,
let's say like if my dad were to have cancer, what would be like the effect on me having cancer?
Well, that would all depend on how the cause for his cancer.
Okay.
One, or rather, the mutations that made him more susceptible.
Yeah.
Anyone theoretically can get cancer. However, if you have a defective tumor suppressor gene,
Yeah.
the most famous being the BRCA genes,
Yeah.
what happens is those genes detect a tumor and will
Yeah.
put a stop to it. Or if you're immunocompromised, that also would
Yeah.
do it. But if you have a problem with, because your body is fortified against tumors, you would have lots of tumors if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But what happens is if a family member is genetically predisposed to having defective tumor suppressor genes or a inherently weakened immune system, your risk of developing cancer increases quite a bit, which is why if a family member has cancer, it's important to test
Yeah.
for the BRCA gene, because if you
Yeah.
have it, you're at a considerably higher risk of certain cancers. The
Yeah.
other thing is, with immunotherapy, there's a lot of work being done to genetically engineer specific treatments in which it produces antibodies specific to your own tumor that your immune system will then know to attack it.
So can you tell us what RNA is? I've always been confused about the difference between DNA and RNA.
DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, whereas RNA is ribose nucleic acid.
Yeah.
And DNA is double-stranded and held within the nucleus, the center of the cell, whereas RNA is not, but it's single-stranded. There's 3 types of RNA. There's messenger RNA, transport RNA, and ribosomal RNA.
Yeah.
It's a complicated procedure in which first the transport RNA, or not the, at first what happens is the DNA is transcribed, is either transcribed or translated, I believe transcribed, into RNA, mRNA, and then that mRNA is read by an rRNA or a ribosomal RNA, which builds the proteins by coding each letter of the DNA to a letter of RNA.
Yeah.
But then, or that's what happens in transcription. But then in translation, the proteins are built through the addition of amino acids, in which the mRNA is brought through the rRNA, and the tRNA brings the amino acids.
Okay.
This process typically is animated to make it much easier to understand, but those animations, it can take seconds.
Yeah.
However, it happens much faster in your cell.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So, let's say, all right, hypothetically, okay?
Yeah.
I know this may be a little bit stupid because it's a hypothetical.
Yeah, it's fun. These are the fun
Let's
ones.
say, like, a little piece of bacteria of, like, or a little piece of, like, let's say, COVID, or...
The
you know,
DNA from COVID?
Yeah, like... just-
RNA, actually. COVID has no DNA. It has RNA.
Let's say COVID or goes into, like, a piece of it just, like, flies into your mouth.
Yes.
What is the first thing that happens?
Well, I mentioned your immune system would try to eliminate it, assuming a sample of the virus or just the RNA by itself. That's very different. Which do you mean, a sample of the RNA or the actual vaccine or the actual virus itself?
The actual virus itself.
Oh, well, then it would, assuming your immune
Let's say
system...
you're unvaccinated too.
Well, assuming your immune system's unable to fight it, it would infect you by latching onto its cells with its specialized protein markers, which if your immune system doesn't know what they are and hasn't encountered before, then it will be able to, most likely, without being fought by your immune system.
Yeah.
And then it inserts its DNA, its rather mRNA, into your cell. And the problem is, if a virus, which this is how they reproduce, they simply insert their genetic material into your cell, and then your ribosomes are unable to distinguish between the viral mRNA and the standard mRNA, and it transcribes them regardless.
Yeah.
And as it so happens, the mRNA that is inserted into the cell happens to, rather than coding for something beneficial to the cell, it just codes for more of the virus until it codes for so much virus that the cell uses up its resource and dies, and then the replications of the virus escape.
Yeah. Okay.
Which this kills a considerable amount of cells, if it's a bad virus.
Yeah. Do you think some vaccines are stronger than others?
Oh, of course. I mean,
So, like, can you tell me, like, which ones, you know about which ones are more strong
yeah,
than others?
one of the weakest vaccines, I assume you mean would be a flu vaccine. Those can go into the 40% efficacies, whereas I would say one of the stronger ones is measles, mumps, and rubella.
Yeah.
That vaccine you receive very young, and it is supposed to carry for the entirety of your life.
Yeah.
And it has well above a 90% efficacy rating. But it comes down to, with the flu shot, they're guessing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They try to figure out what strain of the flu is most likely to take hold, but if they pick the wrong one, it's not very effective at all.
What are your thoughts on the microchips?
Which
A lot of
microchips?
people tell me they think microchips are in vaccines.
Oh, well, that's
Like
nonsense,
that, like
I
they
guess.
put I don't think there are microchips in vaccines. But what are your
Well,
what do you have to say about?
Well, I think it's this started by a Bill Gates rumor, actually. There's a fine time to Elon Musk here, but what happened was Bill Gates was running programs to vaccinate third world countries and developing countries and underdeveloped nations. However, they had no medical record system.
Yeah.
So what his plan was to use an ultraviolet tattoo ink, essentially, that would mark the vaccine so that then they could simply shine UV light on the vaccinated person's arm to determine if they received, which vaccines they've received.
Yeah.
And the idea was never put into place as far as I know. However, it was certainly discussed.
Yeah.
But people misconstrued that into being a microchip conspiracy. But why I think that's so rich is because Bill Gates did something that's a huge exaggeration. Elon Musk, meanwhile, is literally bragging about the fact that he's going to be doing Neuralink and actually putting microchips into people's brains.
That is pretty crazy.
I think it's funny.
How they have Neuralink where they're actually taking
It's not on the market yet.
Not on the market yet, but
Yeah.
they're having people who, I'm not saying they didn't apply, but they applied themselves
Yes.
to get the tests.
Yes. 'Cause-
Where they put like a flash drive in your head.
Well, the reason he's offering it to are paraplegics and quadriplegics. People are paralyzed, which that's a very attractive offer to them.
Yeah.
Because if you could use that to connect to a prosthetic, which is the goal, it would be extremely beneficial. Because a relatively minor operation, that would return the use of your limbs, or rather synthetic limbs. Still something that's very appealing because if you don't have a limb, you don't have that limb.
Yeah.
A lot of people would try anything, even if the ethical ramifications become blurred.
Yeah.
People would still try it, which I personally think there's worse that you
I
could
would
do
possibly
than that.
try it.
Yes,
to be honest.
I would too if I was.
If it was once it's safe on the market and everyone else is using it.
The thing is, though, you may even consider doing it sooner if someone said, say you have all four of your limbs aren't working, you're paralyzed, none of your limbs are working, and you can either continue to, your nose is itchy, nurse, scratch my nose. That's not something that appeals to a lot of people, obviously.
Yeah.
So if you're given the option for something that can give you the use of either your
Like a
limb
benefit.
or synthetic,
Yeah.
it's a cost.
Something that's better.
With every clinical trial, there's a risk. Every single one, there are clinical trials for new tumor medications.
Yeah.
Every medication on the market has to go through a clinical trial.
Yeah.
And people agree to them because either they're being paid to, usually they are, but generally it's because they figure the risk of the treatment is much lower than what the cost, or rather the costs of accepting the treatment, not financial costs in this case, but costs in terms of risks and pain associated, they consider to be far less than the pain and suffering of not doing it.
Yeah.
Which I think it should be applied the same as someone who has cancer. If someone has cancer and agrees to go into a tumor study, a new type of chemo comes on the market, that could be an extremely painful ordeal with a high chance that you won't survive, but if you don't accept it, you're definitely going to go through a great deal of pain and death, and you die.
Yeah. Crazy day. I found out my dad drank I'm not lying, my dad actually told me he drank a radioactive water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
It was
story.
because I have Crohn's disease, or they say I have Crohn's disease. So
They say you might.
I don't know. They say for sure I have what's it called? Cholera.
Cholera?
Yeah.
You have
colitis.
Oh, I was gonna say you have cholera. You gotta get to the hospital. No, you would not be okay if you had cholera.
Yeah. So I have colitis.
Oh, that's a relief.
But they told me a few weeks ago it was Crohn's disease, and then yesterday they called me up to confirm it was Crohn's disease. I don't know about to confirm, but just to tell me it was Crohn's, and then today they said, oh wait, no, it may just be an infection and not Crohn's disease.
An infection would be easier to treat, I would
And then my
imagine.
dad told me he drank radioactive water to figure out if he had Crohn's disease.
That sounds worse than it is. I imagine was probably barium, a barium isotope. Which
By the way, he was doing this completely legal by doctors. He wasn't just randomly drinking radioactive water.
Yeah. Well, that radioactive is almost an overstatement in that it's should be primarily, if not entirely, alpha particles, which are considerably safer. And if you're exposed to alpha particle radiation, theoretically, it can't even get through a sheet of paper. A sheet of paper is enough to shield you, whereas gamma radiation, the stuff that is real bad, you need inches of lead or concrete, or a water tank to protect you. Whereas a single sheet of paper should be enough to prevent it from causing any harm. However, your skin is more than enough. However, if taken internally, in the long term, it could theoretically cause some harm to DNA, but it should not be a significant threat to your safety in the amount that they would give you. And it would increase the visibility on X-ray of your internal organs by enough that, once again, this is the
Yeah.
risk versus the reward, and the reward is
Yeah.
considerably greater than
Yeah.
the risk.
Yeah. So yeah, and back to the Neuralink, and the the stuff that they're putting in people's heads.
Well,
Eventually they will eventually sometime in the future
ideally
put in
to that.
people's heads.
Yeah.
I actually saw a video the other day where they put it in a person's head, and they. I'm sorry, it just sounds ridiculous to me. They put it in a person's head, and the person, I think, one time had a seizure and couldn't talk after that. And now the person's able to talk and respond, even though, like, you can't see the person looking at them. You know what I mean? They, like...
Stephen Hawking style, only without having to use your eyes, you can communicate.
Yeah.
In your brain.
Yeah. So, it's just pretty insane to me to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, the use of...
I actually got a little bit emotional seeing that, just because, like, they're actually able to speak now, you know? Yeah.
I've lost the ability to feel emotion.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Except for rage. I do feel a lot of rage.
Yes.
I exaggerate. Although I do find myself...
I feel...
I exaggerate, but...
I feel the emotion of Sigma and Giga Chad. That's the emotions I feel.
Not sure you want to be saying that at this point. At this point, that's like saying you like fidget spinners.
Which I don't. I don't like spinning.
Did you ever?
At one point I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
And
saying,
later when they
talking about Giga Chad and Sigma stuff is the modern day equivalence of fidget spinners.
Because hey. Yeah. We're at Dexter's house, his dad and his family are here.
You got some fish?
Yeah, he has some fish.
In the image.
Yeah. But no, I never was into fidget spinners. I mean, after they died, I got one just because it was cheap, like 50 cents.
Well,
but it broke.
Could be silly bands.
Yeah, I did get those. Those were... I did think those were pretty cool.
Slimes and silly putty back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
The Giga Chat is just the people who've been through all of those things.
Yeah.
To get to the logical conclusion.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes next. I imagine it'll be quite amusing, although very stupid.
Yeah. Where do you think it's gonna go next?
Well, let's see. We got silly bands to slime to fidget spinners to Giga Chads to Stanley Cups, I suppose. That's where we are now.
Like what cups?
Stanley Cups, I think, are the new Giga Chads. However, after Stanley Cups, there are...
yeah.
Probably cars, considering the age
Cars,
group.
yeah.
I'm thinking it may go to a specific type of car that's not very useful.
Yeah.
Perhaps reverse motor tricycles.
Yeah.
You know, those reverse motor tricycles, maybe they'll
yeah.
I don't know, that would just be funny. A bunch of people my age driving around reverse motor trikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you wonder where it's going, that's what I think would be funniest.
Yeah.
It's just as arbitrary as any of the things I've mentioned, and they're all arbitrary. So if the goal is to get something arbitrary, I would like to see that, or perhaps even a motor unicycle becoming a thing.
Sorry, I was just turning my ringer off because, like, to be honest, I'm using my phone as a mic.
Everyone is.
Yeah, it's much better than having to speak into the computer. I mean, that's cool. It just makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so next question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, one more thing about the Neuralink actually.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's going to be pretty big. Like Alzheimer's, that was my next question.
I don't think that would really...
Like Alzheimer's, like, well, what are your, like, genes in Alzheimer's? How do you think that...
Alzheimer's, when Neuralink wouldn't have much to do with that, because Alzheimer's is when it's a specific kind of dementia in which proteins...
I don't know what it is, but that's your name.
In which... Ooh, got packaged from Spain.
Patriots fan, huh?
Yeah.
That's on your car also.
It's Dexter's dad.
Oh, you're on the phone.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Sorry. You're
okay.
like, why is he just, like, randomly talking into the phone in the middle of the room?
Okay.
Yeah. It's live.
Wow. Okay.
But it's okay. You could be in it on it if you want. But
Okay. So, are you from New England or?
no. So everybody, I'm a Patriots fan. If you've watched my videos, and
Oh, okay.
and my dad is from Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so he made me a Patriots fan growing up. He kind of
Oh, I get it.
cult made me a Patriots fan.
Yeah. Well, while you were growing up, the Patriots had
Yeah.
Tom Brady and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's pretty exciting time.
But they also
Yeah.
became the Deflatriots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just happy. I think it's time for other people to win.
There you go,
I
right.
mean, Dexter, don't you agree? It's time for other people to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that's good.
I mean-
they got rid of their head coach, so
Yeah.
we're...
Do you not like Bill Belichick?
No, I'm saying they got rid of him, so now other teams will be winning. So
Yeah.
they got rid of the guy who led them to victory every single
Except for Tom Brady.
time. Yeah. I mean, theoretically, I guess you could do it without Tom. Wait, no, they still have him.
No, because he would. I don't know.
I think without
It's-
Bill
it's a-
Belichick, the gig is up.
It's
obviously.
whole debate for another time.
Yeah, no, just
Yeah.
if you win with a head coach in office and you've had him forever,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you get rid of the head coach, you're not exactly gonna be on top of your game. after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we're discussing on our podcast genetics.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I changed the subject on you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's
I'll let you
okay.
get back to it.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, but Alzheimer's. So dementia's a very broad field. Alzheimer's is a specific one. It's in which there are a few causes of it. Genetics do show increased risk. In fact, Chris Hemsworth just got diagnosed very sadly with.
I know, that was very
yeah,
sad.
Well, he doesn't even have it yet, and it already seems like he's terminally ill. It's really weird. He's gonna actually he's gonna have to see it coming, which is
Yeah.
kind of a shame. But
Yeah.
he has a thing in which he's 10 times more likely than average to get it.
Yeah.
But what happens
Sorry,
with
not funny.
Alzheimer's, the specific form, is where senile plaque is able to develop in your brain physically decreases in mass and erodes until you're no longer able to
Yeah.
either until you're able to survive. It keeps going and getting progressively worse.
Yeah.
However,
But
they're looking at treatments that can slow it down. I know there was a big thing where Vivek Ramaswamy bought a drug from GlaxoSmithKline,
mhm.
GSK. They're the people who run Franklin Institute. As a matter of fact, he bought a drug for $5 million. He messed with the data a little bit allegedly, and then
Oh, I didn't know that.
he did. Well, he had his mom, have certain people admitted from the study who made it look not quite so good. Then the study looked good, so then what he did allegedly was a pump and dump where he went on TV, talked about how great this drug would be. Then right after that, he sold off all his shares, made a fortune, and then
Wait.
when the study
Wait. He pumped and dumped?
pumped and dumped, that's a study. That's
Yeah,
a study.
I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he didn't pump into one
Oh,
stump.
would it be a legal pump and dump?
I don't-
like an unofficial pump and
I
dump?
don't believe he broke any laws. What he did was more of a pump and dump, allegedly in the unethical way rather than the illegal way, as I understand it.
Yeah.
His
Yeah,
mom
it's like
fudged the data in a manner, at least how I understand it, that wasn't illegal, but just
Mhm.
found technicalities to admit the people who made his studies,
yeah.
who made the drug look worse. So he bought the drug for $5 million.
Yeah.
He made the study look promising, and then once he made enough sales, he sold it all. Then he talked about how great it was, sold the stock to his company, and then once the studies continued and they found that it wasn't that good, he was able to earn
Yeah.
a large, well, not really earn, but to make a considerable amount of profit
Mhm.
while doing something relatively unethical.
Yeah.
Perhaps illegal, but I believe just relatively unethical. However, I imagine you would contest that story, but
Yeah.
it does look like he at the very least acted in a manner that was
Mhm.
less ethical than you would hope for a president.
Yeah.
Although he's out of the race, so it's a moot point, I suppose.
Yeah.
And he was never really in the race to win it. He was only in it to maybe run for vice president for Trump or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think he will be the?
I don't know. I think it's probably going to be either Marjorie Taylor Greene or Carrie Lake. It could
Oh,
be him,
boy.
but if I were personally making a bet on who it's going to be, I would say it's going to... Trump's... One of the key things that he's going to want to do is not appear to be a sexist, so he's probably going to pick a woman. And I think Kerry Lake of Arizona, because he does need Arizona, or
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, because once again he does also need Georgia, and he's in both of those states rather. He's teetering on the edge of winning or losing them, and he needs to win both of them, or certainly one to win. So by picking a VP from a hotly contested blue state, you increase your chance of winning.
Do you think he'll win the next election? I think he actually. I
don't know. I think it's much more complicated because they're neck and neck in the polls, but a lot can happen. I think if Biden issues a strong executive order in relation to the
January 6th.
No, into the border actually.
Yeah.
I think that would do it. The other thing is I think that could get him some positive views from the public. The other thing that I think could hurt Trump though is it would disqualify him if the Supreme Court rules, which they're ruling by the 11th, and they're gonna say he will either get to be president, run for president, or not. They're gonna make a decision.
Yeah.
In fact, they heard oral arguments yesterday, and they will make their decision by the 11th, which is coming up.
Like if he can be president again?
Yes.
Oh boy, wait,
They're
that's
gonna make the decision.
2 days from now.
Correct.
What do you think they'll say?
I actually am not sure. I think it's a toss-up. If I were betting, I would personally say more likely than not that they will not disqualify him. But
except for like a few states or something?
No. This will determine if any states can disqualify him.
Oh boy.
If they say that, then there are a few implications that this could go. It could either go, as I understand it, with people saying that he's qualified to run in every state, he's qualified to run in no states, or states can choose for themselves whether to have him qualified or not.
Yeah.
And if whichever option they go will determine a great deal about.
I have a feeling it's going to be states can choose, and it's going to be.
Oh no, that's the one that I think is the most dubious. I'd be the most surprised by that option actually.
Well, just because like.
Because if it's found that he engaged in insurrection, then he can't hold public office. If any court holds that opinion and they agree with that opinion that he engaged in insurrection, the 14th Amendment would disqualify him. However, if they rule he did not engage in insurrection and that they can't disqualify him, then the states can't just disqualify him because.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court's interpreting a completely uncharted field, which is the disqualification of a presidential candidate for committing insurrection as sitting president. It's never been done. I'm not speaking to the merits of the case. I'm speaking to the precedent. This is completely uncharted territory, and we're going to have to see, and it's all going to be made or broken, the precedent by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Which they do have a conservative majority. However, I don't think this will be a sheer partisan divide. I would at least expect
it may be like close, kind of.
I don't know. I think there's a decent chance they could rule unanimously one way or the other too.
I agree.
If they determine it, but I think it's just. I don't think anyone can say what's going to happen.
I agree. I just feel like the head of the states are just so upset. Like the liberal states are just so upset about it.
Yeah. Well, whatever the Supreme Court rules, it doesn't matter how anyone. It doesn't matter if everyone's thrilled, if everyone's disappointed, because they're not. It's not going to happen. No one's got another shot at it until there's a new Supreme Court.
Well, it would be a little bit ridiculous though if they made all states not have him as president except Texas.
Well, they would just say all states can't have him on the ballot because he's disqualified. Which, if they ruled that,
only in Texas.
Well, that would be a strange ruling. That would.
No, as a joke. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just playing along with it. Like, oh yes, that would be quite unusual. That would be that would be something to see though. That would be a.
Yeah.
That would be a.
Yeah.
Yeah. That honestly would probably spur a bipartisan impeachment of some of the.
Yeah.
Members of the Supreme Court. Yeah, although they would never do that. That would just be the most outrageous thing you could imagine. But it would be amusing, Grant. But
Yeah.
Wait, if he's just banned in Texas, or
no, just banned in every state except for Texas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that would be interesting because there wouldn't really be any constitutional reason.
You
for
should
that,
debate. You should debate someone that was on here. I'm not going to say who it is, but. He has the exact opposite opinions of you on things.
So he thinks that should be banned or shouldn't? Because I didn't give an opinion on whether or not he should. I didn't.
He's just extremely what's the word? He has like the extreme opposite of what you like believe, like your point.
Specifically, which points? 'Cause
Like
I don't go right or left on all issues uniformly.
I know you're very like middle.
Yeah,
Like,
generally I lean left. Sometimes I lean just frankly off the map in different ways. Although generally,
Yeah.
I don't really.
yeah.
I would be interested to hear: does he lean left or does he lean right? That's an important question.
He
Or does he lean into the off the map too?
he leans left.
Although I imagine I could agree with him on
like-
quite a bit.
There are some people I know that are very left, and there's some people I know that are very right.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could have him debate. Sorry, I could have him debate a guy from a club that we're in.
Which guy? Mark
One of them, yeah.
or Drew? Yeah, no.
Probably
that could be
Drew.
interesting. Drew Mark, because the thing is,
Drew would. I honestly like. If I were to predict it, all right. If I were to predict it, I would say, and I'm not trying. How do I say it? I'm not trying to be not nice because I think your points are actually the best points out of all of them.
mine. I don't know.
I do
Drew
agree
would
with
do
you
well.
the most. I do think though that he would
Or-
probably. I do think he would probably beat you, but Drew
Oh.
would probably beat him.
I think I'd beat the other guy, but I think Drew would beat both of us. Because the other guy, honestly, it depends what we're going with. I imagine, what sort of topic does he feel strongest about? It depends on the topic.
He
Because what topic do you think he would most disagree with me on and be interested in debating me?
let's not get into specifics, but
A general.
he's
criminal justice system.
he's
social
very
issues,
into the Israel-Palestine war.
financial.
Let's
See,
not get into
That's gonna raise my blood
let's
pressure.
not,
I'll just say that.
let's not get into specifics.
Yeah, no.
Um,
I'll say that whole issue raises my blood pressure, every aspect of it. So I wouldn't really be interested
Yeah.
in debating that on a
But
podcast. I'll
there's
need to
also
get
a few other
some-
things, but
I'll
like
need some baby aspirin to avoid stroke if we do that.
yeah.
I exaggerate, but
Actually, you were one other person that was on the podcast. You versus maybe another person, but
yeah, I exaggerate, but I do get quite invested.
yeah. Well, I think you do pretty good actually.
Yeah, no.
Like, I actually,
I'd be able
like-
to control myself. I wouldn't do anything I wouldn't do
Bes-
anything crazy, but I would internally be very
Besides my family, which I mean, let's be fair because it's my family, I do agree with you the most out of all the people I know. So
Well, I don't take left or right. I just take whatever I think
Right.
is the moral right decision.
you're
on
very
something.
I don't know if
I'm not moderate on everything. I
you're
just
more
pick
of like
and choose
middle
from-
rather than moderate.
I would say what I do is I pick and choose the issues that I like best from each side,
Yeah.
rather than just taking a side. Which it happens that most of the issues many
Yeah.
of the issues I do prefer the left, but
Yeah.
But the criminal justice system, for instance, I think that the right may have some of the right ideas on a few key components. Not all. They're
Yeah.
private prisons certainly need to be thrown out. I wrote a few paper on that, but there are a few things that I think,
Yeah.
such as mandatory minimum sentencing. And,
Wait, so what needs to be thrown out?
private prisons, obviously, that's
Yeah.
a very strong left fucking point I agree with.
So can
However,
you
I would say, though, that mandatory minimum sentences, not for drugs, but rather for violent crimes, are appropriate generally.
can you debunk any myths of like genes? Like any like myths of like oh, you know,
Or, I'm not sure what myths are
like oh, you know, like oh, like you know, oh, this is what happens with the genes, and it could be even like conspiracies that like people have, like the microchips conspiracy.
Yeah, I don't know any big gene conspiracies. I mean, I guess that the vaccine, the one thing people were saying, the COVID vaccine would manipulate your genome even though it has no effect, or that. I mean, there was
What
some
is that? I don't know what genome like.
the entirety of your genetics that are within
Oh,
your body,
yeah.
or within yourself.
Yeah.
Well, all your cells except for your gametes and your.
I
blood
did
cells.
have someone try to convince me not to get the vaccine just because of the Johnson and Johnson thing.
Well, that really would only. Yeah.
But
that would-
it was more of
Honestly, I would say the other vaccines are slightly more dangerous in that they have a higher risk of myocarditis, which.
it was more of the
You
what's
are
it
at risk
called?
for, but I don't think that which people are at risk for, but I don't think it's substantive enough
Yeah.
to derelict the vaccine.
It was more of
However,
what-
that's my opinion, and I also think making it mandatory for jobs, like certain jobs I could understand it, such as a healthcare
Yeah.
professional, but if someone works as a truck driver, for instance, like
Yeah.
and they're alone, I don't actually see why it should be
Yeah.
mandatory per se.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't know all the facts, but I
Yeah.
personally think that giving people freedom, if provided it doesn't affect others, is generally the right thing to do.
Yeah. All right. One more question. Is there anything that's like, like you've discovered about genes that you're just kind of like shocked about or whatever?
I guess the level of similarity in the fact that the vast majority of your DNA is not a gene, it's called dark DNA. We don't know what it does, that's the majority of your genome. But the other thing is that how certain they can be in a criminal case. Because people always say, well, the gene samples say that there's a chance you were innocent, but it's down to the 100 trillionth, meaning there's a 1/100 trillionth of a chance that it was someone else. Which at that point, some people say it's better 100 men guilty men go free than one innocent man go jail. Others say it's better 1,000 or even 10,000 guilty men go free than one innocent man go jail. But would you say it's better 300 trillion guilty men go free than one innocent man go jail?
Yeah.
I would say no, because there aren't 300 men to go to jail, so you did it.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in maybe 2 to 5 minutes.
All right.
All right. Perfect. All right, we're back. We are back on the Shap podcast with Dexter this time. Okay. So, Dexter.
Yep.
Are there any movies that you want to see coming out, or?
Honestly, not really. I thought about the King Kong one, the new King Kong versus Godzilla, but the last one I didn't enjoy very much.
I did not like the last one either. It was pretty bad.
I didn't enjoy all that much, so I'm probably not gonna.
It was all of it was bad except the final scene, which was amazing.
There were a few fight scenes, but the movie it seemed like.
I just felt like it was just a bunch of people walking around.
I thought it seemed more like a Nickelodeon movie that's just.
Yeah.
A Michael Bay movie on it. What did he direct it? I don't know.
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if he produced it.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Honestly, Disney movies. I mean.
They have decreased in quality sharply.
Yeah, Disney movies have been a lot worse than what they were in the past.
Yeah.
In the past, it was great, and they weren't afraid to do something that was emotional. Now it's
they still go pretty emotional, but they go sappy. That's the problem.
Yeah, it doesn't it feels like I feel like it's hit its point where you can't really like it because it's the same thing every single time.
That and the fact that the CGI has gotten worse.
Yeah.
That just pisses me off a little.
Yeah.
Bad CGI after being spoiled with decades of good CGI it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Even CGI that would barely pass in the 90s, certainly not in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
People compare the Hulk 2023 with the Hulk 2003 or 2022 2003.
Yeah.
And it's just it decreased quite a bit over the course of an almost 20-year span.
Yeah.
And you would expect CGI to get better, not worse in 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do feel like the Marvel movies have been pretty bad. I think
CGI got worse.
If I were to point out the best ones, the good ones, most of the movies at the original,
Phase
1 to 2, phase 1 to Endgame.
Phase 1 to 3, that is.
I think most of those were at least good.
Yeah, a few were a little lackluster, but you watched for the canonical value, but
yeah.
None were just putrid like the new ones.
But the new ones, I looked at all the new ones. I could only pick out out of the 20, I could only pick out 3 that I thought were at least okay.
I would say the majority of the new ones I haven't even watched. I sort of retired from it because they were quite disappointing, and they started getting rotten on Rotten Tomatoes instead of fresh. So once that started with the Eternals, it's like well, they lost their touch, I guess.
Even though Eternals was bad, I still thought it was pretty unique.
I didn't watch it. I heard it was the first movie that got rotten, so I was like, well.
I remember when it was at 30-something%.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the first Marvel movie that gets a rotten score, that must mean it's pretty bad, because that was enough for me to be like, well, throwing that out of hand.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say I would never. Well, I'm not watching that one. Which isn't to say rotten movies are always bad, but Marvel had never had that before. So if this was enough to earn that, it must be pretty bad.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, I think movies in general nowadays are not that good, which is pretty sad because people have the highest opportunity than ever to actually make good movies, which is why I'm making the movies I am now, not only because I love it and I'm a film major, but because I actually love making movies. Like, I've always, even when I was younger, like, I would make, like, little clips and stuff of, like, like, things I would want in a movie.
Yeah.
And now it's like now I'm, like, actually making, like, short films, and and I have a huge announcement at the end of this podcast, but I feel like movies nowadays are really, like, bland. I don't know if bland or not bland, like,
Not bland is a good word.
like, I feel like they're either way too strong or way too soft. I
I
don't
don't think there's a movie that's been too strong. In the
like
last
I even
5 years.
feel like even though Everything Everywhere at Once was a great movie,
I actually didn't see that.
even though of that, I still think it was a little bit too ridiculous.
I don't know the plot
Like,
of it.
it shouldn't have won over The Fabelmans, in my opinion, or most of the other movies that were nominated that year.
No, I don't remember, man.
And
Was that the year Brandon Fraser won the Oscar?
yeah, it was. And looking at the way it is, they're probably going to not get Oppenheimer and Christopher Nolan Best Picture, Best Director.
Who do you think it would go to then? Oh, actually.
It's probably going to be Barbie, to be honest.
No, Barbie wasn't nominated for that.
It was for Best Picture,
Oh,
but
really? I thought
yeah.
What was it? Everyone
it was their
that-
director,
What was it? Everyone said got snubbed.
director and actress.
How is director different from
From-
Picture of the Year?
Oh yeah. So
I don't see the difference between that.
director is like the creator, like the top creator, so
Yeah.
like the top idea maker, kind of.
Yeah.
So that's
I know what the director is, but what's the difference between Best Director and Best Picture? Because it was the reason the Best Director would be the Best Director of the Best Picture.
who had the best ideas.
That seems indistinguishable from Best
Yeah,
Picture, but
but Best Picture is more of like what's the best overall movie, or like what's the best, not overall, which is what is the best movie.
and then what's best? What's the? I don't see the difference between the. It seems like the best director is the one who made the best movie. Seems like those should go hand in hand.
Yeah, I
Like that
agree.
it's producer versus director.
I
that's the
agree.
word, but they seem redundant.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Oppenheimer will win director and picture, but the way I know the Academy, they'll probably have Barbie win and like some director that nobody's really talking about except for some nomination beat Christopher Nolan. But I really hope he wins. But
Yeah, that was a good movie for sure.
you've seen it?
Well, Oppenheimer, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it's
one
an
of the
amazing
favorites.
movie.
Yeah. Also, I saw the new Godzilla movie. I liked it, but I had too much crying.
Yeah.
It was all in Japanese, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
Some subtitles going.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there was just. Here's the thing: everyone thought I was being a dick, but there was a lot of crying in the movie, which it was warranted. And people are like, well, of course he's gonna cry. It's, a kamikaze pilot who derelict his duty. Of course he's gonna be crying about that.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, but you don't need to show it. It's like
Yeah.
you can show just a little. It's like we can assume that they sleep, but they don't show them sleeping 8 hours. They show them sleeping somewhat, or you can assume they go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see it. It's just I don't
Yeah.
want to see. I think it was too much time. It was like
Yeah.
it just was secondhand embarrassing. Yeah, I mean that makes me sound like a psychopath.
But yeah, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to hit that.
Yeah, it's fine. But
that's
just I personally would prefer no less crying.
Yeah.
Because I get that the crying happened. You don't need to hit me over the head with it. It's like
Yeah.
a considerable amount.
Yeah, I saw some scenes from an Asian movie recently. Our teacher showed it to us in class. It's about a Chinese gang with an.
What's it called?
It's called Election Year. It's about an election in a Chinese gang, which I find very ridiculous.
Why would that be ridiculous?
Because elections, I feel like, are the last thing they would actually have.
Gangs actually do that. Some of them are organized and they treat themselves like governments.
Yeah.
Like Gangster Disciples, I know they're a very organized gang. A lot, also Hell's Angels.
Did you
The gangs are very organized. And
did you finish Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
You loved it, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I did enjoy it.
Have you watched Better Call Saul
I
yet?
saw the last episode, a few episodes. I found it a little bit dull.
Yeah.
I saw some of the earlier stuff. I saw some of the.
So the beginning of season 6 is where it's actually like exciting.
See, I don't have the patience for a show that says we'll get good after 6 seasons. It's like, well, I'm not watching 5 more seasons.
Yeah.
For more too
Oh my gosh, Bruce from the other podcast is actually calling me. Let me actually tell him.
Do you want to wrap up and you can take the call?
I want to wrap it up on one final note.
All right.
Or on one final thing.
Yeah.
Okay. It may be an emergency. Okay. I'm just going to wrap it up on one final thing. It's been great talking with you, Dexter. I always have fun talking with you. He has great opinions. Bruce and I have a movie coming out. It's called My Friend Bruce. It's a feature-length film. It will be on YouTube, and the teaser just came out, so I'm excited.
Is that the one about the athlete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys. Thank you, Dexter, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Left hand handshake.
Oh,
yeah, that's okay. That was me who did that. So bye.